The broadcast echoed through every system under the Empire's control, a transmission delivered by one of their senior commanders, addressed to all member species, including the human representatives. It was crafted to reassure allies and mock critics. The message was clear: humans were not a threat. The commander portrayed them as emotionally fragile, afraid of sustained conflict, dependent on alliances rather than strength. He claimed they preferred dialogue over battle, lacked the will for sacrifice, and didn't have the backbone required for wars demanding total commitment. The Empire had every reason to believe this. They had faced species engineered for war, some enhanced through biotechnology, others operating with emotionless machine precision, and crushed them all. Their fleets dominated central trade routes. Their military ruled across hundreds of systems. Their soldiers followed doctrine without hesitation. In the galaxy's eyes, they were the center of power. And in the Empire's eyes, that power had no rival. Humanity's first contact didn't challenge that belief. The diplomats Earth sent arrived with translators, scientific data, and peaceful messages. They proposed trade and knowledge exchange. No warships accompanied them. No demands were made. Just calm introductions. The Empire didn't see this as wisdom, they saw it as fear. In private, the human delegation was mocked. Officials whispered jokes. Some said humans thought peace would shield them, others called them naive. Military reports filed after first contact were dismissive. Analysts evaluated humanity's fleet capacity, logistics, and deployment range. Everything looked small by Imperial standards. Their weapons were outdated. Their infrastructure spanned only a handful of colonies. Their communications relied on slower networks. Conclusion: humanity posed no serious threat. Their political structure was decentralized. Leaders were elected. In the Empire's eyes, that meant weakness. Over time, this perception hardened. Human representatives were routinely interrupted during council sessions. Their proposals were ignored. Even allied species, who once found humans intriguing, adopted the Empire's dismissive attitude. Humans became known as idealists who didn't understand real power. They were allowed to exist, but never taken seriously. In Imperial military academies, cadets ran simulations using human opponents as warm-up exercises. Earth forces never won. They surrendered, retreated, or requested ceasefires. No one questioned these assumptions. No one imagined a scenario in which humans were dangerous. The idea simply didn't exist. Then a human diplomatic ship was destroyed near a border world. The Empire called it an accident. They said the vessel had entered a restricted zone and ignored warnings. No apology was issued. Just a sterile message through formal channels: no further action would be taken. Case closed. Internally, many believed it was a test, to see how far humans could be pushed before they broke. Nothing changed. Human trade continued. Diplomats remained in place. Fleets didn't move. The Empire took this as confirmation of their belief, that humans were afraid, willing to swallow the loss and move on. In private councils, high-ranking Imperial officials discussed long-term options. Some favored annexing human-controlled systems. Others believed Earth would eventually beg to join the Empire, just to avoid future incidents. No one considered the possibility that humans were preparing a response. Yet there were quiet signals, if anyone had paid attention. Certain human trade routes went silent. Supply transfers halted without explanation. Civilian travel to outer colonies dropped dramatically. These signs were dismissed. The Empire assumed humans were retreating, withdrawing from a fight they couldn't win. They misunderstood entirely. Humans didn't rush when they were angry. They planned. They calculated. They responded in ways that could not be reversed. The Empire told itself a story about Earth, a story that left no room for retaliation. No model existed for what it would look like if humans stopped tolerating disrespect. They thought they had already written humanity's chapter in galactic history. But humans never corrected them. They didn't protest the mockery. They didn't argue with dismissive reports. They simply watched. And they remembered. When the line was crossed, they didn't make speeches. They acted. The explosion that followed was officially classified by the Empire as a reactor malfunction. Brief technical summary. The Terran diplomatic ship had entered a designated patrol zone near the Ziran border and reportedly suffered a catastrophic systems failure. No bodies were recovered. No investigation permitted. The official Empire statement expressed regret for the loss of life and simply reminded others to follow proper protocols in restricted regions. But Earth received the unfiltered data. The raw transmission logs told a different story. There had been no warning. The ship's telemetry confirmed it was exactly where it was authorized to be. Then came the impact. A pulse weapon, untraceable, but unmistakable, ruptured the core before the shields could even activate. It wasn't a malfunction. It was a message. Disguised as an accident. Engineered to humiliate. Designed to carry no consequences. The footage was played in silence before the Terran assembly. What was once a hall of debate did not argue. No vote was called. They didn't need one. The final image on screen was enough, a crewman, screaming, systems failing. Before the feed went black. That was the signal. Every delegate stood. And the world shifted. The assembly dissolved within hours, replaced by a new entity, Unified Terran Command. Not a council. Not a committee. A singular authority, composed of military strategists, intelligence chiefs, black-budget AI cores, and ex-commanders long thought retired. Their mission was not peace. It was retribution. Within 48 hours, Earth cut ties with every diplomatic channel. No statements. No explanations. Human embassies were shuttered. Civilian vessels vanished from the border sectors. The Empire noticed, but misunderstood it as weakness. As expected behavior. As fear. They didn't know Project Thanos had been activated. It wasn't public. It wasn't even military. It had been designed 3 decades prior by a silent coalition of defense theorists, AI ethicists, retired generals, and worst-case scenario planners. Its purpose, total, asymmetrical retaliation if Earth was ever attacked in a way diplomacy could not solve. Core directive, do not retaliate conventionally. Objective, remove the enemy's ability to attack again, permanently. No announcements were made. Mobilization occurred underground, off-world, and off-record. AI-driven logistics rerouted civilian cargo into military supply chains. Orbital stations dropped from network pings. Stealth fleets deployed via black space corridors, routes originally charted for deep space exploration, now weaponized for covert war. No alarms sounded. No public was warned. Consent was no longer required. Empire surveillance noted increased encryption from Terran colonies but saw no fleet formations. No border violations. They updated forecasts, again concluding that humanity was retreating. They didn't know what they were looking for. The first operation launched without authorization. It didn't need one. Unified Command didn't issue declarations. It issued objectives. Targets were selected by function, not symbolism, supply routes, logistics relays, data infrastructure. Civilian populations were avoided unless actively shielding military assets. The first strike wasn't a ship. It was data corruption, a protocol injected into the Empire's interplanetary relay systems, blinding sensors across the Veltra sector. Then came the kinetic payloads. No energy signatures. No heat trails. They struck like meteors, arrived like debris, impacted like extinction events, left nothing behind. The mission report was 4 lines long. No fanfare. No broadcasts. No names. The Empire noticed the silence, but dismissed it. A single colony going dark wasn't unheard of. Communication glitch. Rebellion. Internal failure. More likely than an attack. especially from humans. They sent a recovery fleet, small, standard. They didn't escalate readiness. They didn't reposition strategic assets. They underestimated. The second loss came 3 days later. A mining outpost, deep in an asteroid belt, gone. No distress call. No defense activation. No survivors. Just echoes of rapid electromagnetic discharge picked up by a nearby scout vessel, right before it too disappeared. Internal Empire reports flagged anomalies. Command silenced them. They feared panic more than the truth. Meanwhile, Terran strike groups kept moving. No fleets. No banners. Only precision. They didn't invade. They fractured. They erased the Empire's support structure, logistics first, then communications, then trust. Empire AI networks flooded with synthetic traffic. Messages rerouted. Orders scrambled. Automated fuel shipments were delivered to empty systems. Military hubs went dark from cascading blackouts. There was no front line to defend. Then a dreadnought vanished. An Empire capital ship, on routine patrol, was struck by a time-phased microwarp detonation. It bypassed shields and tore through midsection decks before alarms could sound. Recovery crews found no breach. No enemy. The weapon signature didn't match any Terran tech. That was intentional. Every simulation the Empire had ever run on human warfare was now worthless. Panic set in. But it was a quiet panic. No press releases. No public acknowledgement. Empire leadership convened in secret. Their options? Limited. They had no intelligence. No enemy position. No demands. They doubled patrols. Scans intensified. It didn't matter. Human strike teams bypassed patrols entirely. They weren't after territory. They were after functionality. Cybernetic facilities across the Saran cluster failed one by one. Files corrupted. AI cores rendered inert by entropy cascades. Even captured Terran code self-wiped after 20 minutes. Empire coders couldn't trace the origin. They couldn't respond. The psychological toll started before the body count rose. Empire soldiers became paranoid. Officers began doubting their own systems. AI advisors were shut off. Routine collapsed. Protocol meant nothing. Because Earth didn't want to win a war. They wanted to make sure this war would never happen again. And it had only just begun. Suspended. The Empire had power, but no clarity. Weapons, but no coordination. And Earth said nothing. That silence was deliberate. It kept the Empire guessing. Stretched its forces across star systems too vast to defend at once. For the first time in generations, the Empire wasn't dictating events. It was reacting. Not one system had been claimed. Not one world occupied. Yet the message was undeniable. Humanity had not come to win a war. They came to dismantle the idea that the Empire couldn't lose one. Empire defense doctrine shifted, from control to containment. Border systems were locked down. Civilian traffic rerouted. Emergency recruitment orders issued across a dozen sectors. Propaganda changed tone, from superiority to resilience. They no longer claimed humans were incapable of war. They now insisted the situation was under control. Even as command debated fallback strategies behind closed doors. The illusion of stability was sustained through force, not belief. Internal systems cracked. Misinformation spread faster than verification. Officers executed subordinates for insubordination, later revealed to be miscommunication. Morale broke. Rumors filled the void. Ghost fleets. Invisible weapons. Colonies vanishing without cause. High command dismissed them as exaggerations. Then another critical station went dark. Human strike patterns became increasingly surgical. They avoided central hubs. Targeted auxiliary nodes, triggering cascading failures across energy grids. Cargo ships were intercepted and reprogrammed to deliver wrong manifests. Black box data always showed the same anomaly. No impact. No warning. Just a shutdown. Empire scientists couldn't explain it. By the time they developed working theories, the tactics had changed again. Counterintelligence produced nothing. No captured Terran agents. No patterns in intercepted transmissions. No survivors with useful knowledge. The Terrans left no battle logs. No field traces. Only consequences. Then came the financial collapse. Trade had slowed weeks earlier. Now transactions stopped altogether. Currencies fluctuated wildly. Synthetic credit networks crashed, seeded with Terran malware long before the first strike. Entire sector reserves were wiped out by phantom trades. 1 trillion credits vanished, without a single shot fired. The Empire struck back, but hit empty systems. Terran ships refused to engage unless control was assured. Ambushes were rare. Direct confrontations avoided. Every Terran action was part of a longer sequence. And the Empire was always 2 steps behind. Lesser species, once loyal, began withholding resources. Not openly. Just delayed shipments. Missing fuel. Passive resistance. The myth of Imperial protection cracked. The Terrans hadn't destroyed the Empire militarily. They were hollowing it out. On Earth, there were no parades. No speeches. The unified command remained silent. No declarations. Just a directive. Confuse. Collapse. Not a single Empire official had been offered negotiations. That chance had died with the envoy. Generals begged for understanding. How had a species with no conquest history achieved this scale of disruption? The answer had always been there. They'd mistaken restraint for fear. Patience for weakness. Adaptability for indecision. Terrans had never lacked capability. They had simply chosen not to use it, until provoked. Empire military doctrine was built for dominance, not recovery. Soldiers could execute invasions, not respond to chaos. Now chaos was the battlefield. Orders changed hourly. Field commanders froze or panicked. Some launched unsanctioned offensives, wasting fuel and men. Others abandoned positions in fear. System after system spiraled. Not from bombardment, but from collapse. No leaders had died. No throne world taken. But the machine of empire stopped functioning. Citizens lived in fear of silence. Governors questioned every transmission. Generals whispered of defeat, but dared not say it aloud. And still, Earth said nothing. No claims made. No flags raised. No demands issued. And that unnerved them most. Because if this wasn't war, there was no end to prepare for. No negotiations. No ceasefire. Just the methodical disassembly of a regime that had once believed itself untouchable. Empire leadership gathered behind sealed walls, stripped of pomp. They were no longer strategizing image. Central command acknowledged reality. Systems lost without battle. Fleets outmaneuvered before launch. Resources redirected or vanished. Doctrines obsolete. Protocols compromised. No territory had been taken. But strategic capacity was dead. Stability no longer existed. Desperation replaced discipline. An emergency directive was drafted. Open channels to Earth. Offer unconditional peace. Complete withdrawal. Demilitarization. Economic reparations. Access to research archives. The offer was never delivered. The relay station was already disassembled internally. No explosion. No alarms. Just silence. Earth had predicted the move. And ended it before it could begin. Then, everything stopped. No more strikes. No new losses. Systems held. Silence returned. But not the kind the Empire once commanded. This silence was final. A wordless statement. Total. Complete. The Empire's structure still stood. Ships still drifted. Worlds still rotated. But they no longer ruled. Power hadn't been seized. It had been stripped. Function by function. Belief by belief. Across the stars, the Empire still existed. In name. In banners. In theory. But no one enforced it. No one obeyed it. Control dissolved, not in flames, but irrelevance. They hadn't lost a war. They'd been excused from it. Humanity gave no explanation. No claim of righteousness. No plea for justice. They built no monument. Raised no symbol. Made no speech. They just left. But their message echoed through every silent station, every abandoned colony, every fractured command chain. Never mistake peace for fear. Never assume patience means weakness. And never strike first, unless you're ready for the answer.